past 24 hours, many of us have been thinking about and talking about John McCain, honoring his life and mourning his death. Well, it just so happens that I have a book that is written by John McCain in my library. It's a book called Character is Destiny, inspiring stories every young person should know and every adult should remember. It's a series of short biographies that he's written about all sorts of people who have character traits, characteristics that he thinks all of us can and should try to emulate. There's Gandhi, there's Joan of Arc, Winston Churchill, Abraham Lincoln, Leonardo da Vinci, the great Olympic runner Wilma Rudolph, all sorts of heroes. But the story in this book that has always been most memorable for me, most haunting and inspiring, was one that he wrote about himself, sort of. It's entitled Faith. It's a story of his time as a POW in North Vietnam. And I'd like to read an edited version of that for you today. This is John McCain's Faith. Bow. I heard this command shouted at me from the angry guard every morning for 2 very long years. The guard, whom we will call the jerk, although we use an even less polite name for him, would enter my small cell and order me to bow to him. It had become part of my morning ritual, like brushing your teeth. On most mornings, I would just stand there staring at him as if I didn't understand his order. That would prompt the next part of our morning ritual. The jerk would swing his closed fist at my head, and more often than not, knock me to the ground. On days when, for various reasons, I wasn't up for the encounter, and at his command made a small but noticeable bow, he hit me anyway. The jerk was one of the guards we called the turnkeys. They watched to make sure we didn't break any prison rules, such as attempting to talk to a fellow prisoner or communicate with one another by tapping in code on the walls between our cells. Most of us, including me, were kept in solitary confinement, which was a terribly depressing condition to endure for any length. But we tried as best we could to maintain some form of contact with our comrades, to keep up our and one another's strength. The jerk, when he wasn't ordering me to bow and knocking me around my cell, liked to amuse himself by occasionally tripping me on the way to wash up. As I had a broken leg at the time, broken from when he ejected himself out of the airplane and landed in the North Korean territory, it had been broken, and so falling was more than embarrassing. It hurt. The jerk especially seemed to enjoy taking me on a particularly hot and humid day to the place where he washed. And as I looked forward to the little relief offered by bathing, he would laugh when I discovered that the cistern that held our bathing water was empty. These were, on the whole, minor disappointments to me, but his petty cruelty made me hate him as much as he appeared to hate me. Interrogators were another matter. The means used to convince us to talk or change our behavior were various. Sometimes we were forced to stand for many hours without relief, often through the night, and if we tried to drop to our knees or sit on the floor, a guard would slap or punch us until we stood up again. In more serious moments, we were tied up with ropes that became instruments of torture. They would force a prisoner's head down and yank his tied-up arms painfully above it. I also had injured my arms, breaking both of them when I had ejected from my airplane, and I dreaded rope torture more than any other forms of abuse. Hate is a condition of warfare familiar to every combat veteran. There are many noble qualities exhibited by soldiers in war. Love, compassion, courage, self-sacrifice have been expressed in the highest degree on all battlefields of all wars in history. But hatred on both sides of a war is ever present as well. You come to hate your enemies because they have harmed or killed comrades you have loved. You hate them because they are trying to kill you. And you hate them because it is your job to hurt or kill them, and hate helps you do with your own hands the awful work of war. This is war's great tragedy, that no matter how just or necessary your cause, a part of you must become less human to serve it on a battlefield. It is a rare and magnificent soldier who can fight without hating any of his enemies. For those of us held as prisoners of war, we needed more than hate to survive. We needed faith. Faith, first and foremost, in one another. We had faith that no matter how bad things got, we could rely on the support and encouragement of our comrades to help us get through it. And we had faith that if the worst happened, our fellow prisoners would learn of our fate, and when they returned home, would make sure our families knew what had happened to us, and that we had been brave. We had faith in our country, that the American government and people who had sent us to Vietnam would not forget us, but do everything possible to bring us home. And if we did not survive, we had faith that our country would honor our memory. Last, almost all of us had faith in God, even if when we arrived in prison, we lacked a close affiliation with an organized religion. But in prison, you needed to believe in a God whose love for you was ever present, and you needed to believe in God to maintain, through all the horrors of war, a sense of moral responsibility to struggle to remain a human being. Of all my memories in prison, many of which, it may surprise the reader to know, I recall fondly, the one I cherish most is a Christmas service we conducted in 1971. In 1970, which would have been 3 years after he was captured, our treatment had improved somewhat. We were no longer tortured routinely. But the most welcome change of all occurred when we were relocated to group cells. 20 or more men were now kept together in large rooms. After years of solitary confinement, I doubt I have ever been happier than the day I moved into a group cell. During the Christmas season, our captors decided to allow us to conduct services in our cells, and even located a Bible for us to share with prisoners of other cells. I was appointed our cell's chaplain, and was given the responsibility for copying passages from the Bible before it was given to the man in the next cell. For our service, some of our prisoners in our cell had organized a choir. Their voices sound to us as rich and beautiful as those in any cathedral choir could boast. We gave thanks for the birth of Christ and for one another's company, for our families, and for our country. I read from the passages I had copied. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. That Christmas service was as meaningful and encouraging to us as any I have attended before or since. That night, I felt as close to God as I have ever felt, and that faith sustained me as no other could. There was one other occasion during my imprisonment that moved me greatly as evidence of God's transcending love. During the time I was held in solitary, I was caught, not for the first time, communicating with my dear friend in the cell next to mine. For my transgression, I was kept overnight in a punishment cell, tied very tightly in ropes. On this particular night, as I sat on the stool cursing my bad luck and straining against the painfully tightened ropes, the door suddenly opened, and a young gun guard I had occasionally seen wandering around the camp entered the room. He motioned to me to remain silent by placing his finger to his lips, and then, without smiling or even looking me in the eyes, proceeded to loosen the ropes that bound me. This kind action completed, he left without uttering a word to me. As dawn approached, he returned to tighten the ropes before he finished his watch, so another guard might not have discovered what he had done. In the months that followed, I occasionally saw my Good Samaritan when I moved from one part of the prison to another. He never allowed himself to glance in my direction, much less spoke to me, until one Christmas morning, when I was briefly allowed out of my cell to stand alone in the outdoors and look up in the clear blue sky. As I was looking at the heavens, I became aware of him as he walked near me and for a moment stood very close to me. He did not speak or smile or look at me. He just stared at the then, very casually, he used his foot to draw a cross in the dirt. We both stood looking at his work for a minute, until he rubbed it out and walked away. For just that moment, I forgot all my hatred for my enemies, and all the hatred most of them felt for me. I forgot about the jerk and the interrogators who persecuted my friends and me. I forgot about the war and the terrible things that war does to you. I was just one Christian venerating the cross with a fellow Christian on a Christmas morning. I saw him again occasionally, but he never looked at me or attempted to speak to me. We never worshiped together again. But I have never forgotten him or the kindness he showed me as a testament to the faith we shared. That experience helped to form my lasting appreciation for my own religious faith. And it took the faith of an enemy to reveal it to me. The faith that unites and never divides. The faith that bridges unbridgeable divisions in humanity. The faith that we are all sinners and saints alike, children of God. I became a better man, a stronger man, a more faithful man, who for a moment